2 minutes fast. At this time, I'll call the December 19th, 2022 York County Transportation Committee to order. The action item is additional funds requested for programming and bidding on state roads selected during the 2020-2021 C-Fund selection process. Dean.
For tonight is approval for an additional $560,958.16 so that we can program and send a check to SCDOT for the roads that you selected in fiscal year 2020-2021.
Thank you, Dean. Are there any questions from council? Basically, I understand the price of doing roads is going up.
Dean, I've got a quick question. So that's basically, that's offsetting any increase, inflation cost from what we chose from the 2021?
Yes, sir. The money that was allocated and a check has already been sent to SCDOT in the summer of 21. And they have just finished their local bids. They're getting ready to put it out for bids, and their estimate, of course, reflects this major increase. And of course, I do want to bring up that you do have a $1 million contingency that you set aside last month in this year's fiscal allocations to accommodate these increases.
Thank you, Dean. Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion that we approve the $560,958.16 increase in the 2020 to 2021 C-Fund allocation for programming and bidding.
At this time, I'll call the December 19th, 2022 York County Council meeting to order. At this time, I'll recognize the Honorable Allison Love from District 2, who will lead us in invocation and pledge of allegiance.
It's Christmas time. May all of our family members and friends who need a miracle be blessed. May whoever is feeling unwell and weak be given strength. May all of those who have heavy hearts and burdens have their loads lightened. May this Christmas be one filled with love, happiness, and joy. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we have our oath of office for newly appointed board and commission members. If you are here and would come forward and stand in front of the council, and our attorney will come meet you in the middle of the room to swear you in when I call your name. Montrio Belton, Pennies for Progress, 5 Commission. Zachary Zapak, Pennies for Progress, 5 Commission. Steve Mellon, Pennies for Progress, 5 Commission. Brittany Brown, Keep York County Beautiful, District 6. Ann Witt, York County Library Board, District 3. Mike Peak, Catawba Regional Workforce Investment Board. Brian Bresk and Connie Kane for Building Board of Appeals. And Aubrey Parham for the Planning Commission, District 3. Welcome, all of you. We appreciate you being here tonight. On behalf of the council, we want to say thank you for your willingness to serve, and to serve on a voluntary basis, and to serve in a capacity where you rarely get thanked for what you do. There's a lot expected, and very rarely do you get thanked for that work, but it can't be done without your help, and we do appreciate you taking the time out of your personal lives to do the work of the community. We all appreciate you for that. Do one. Thank you. At this time, we have the opportunity to thank a couple of our council members. This is right. I'm gonna set this down there. For their service on the council. And I'm going to start with Robert Winkler, who has served on this council for the past 8 years. Actually, he and I were brought in the same class, and so we kind of started together as rookies, although sometimes I still feel like I'm a rookie. It's always something different and something new. Since the time that Robert has been on this council, he's been very busy. He served as chair of the Finance and Operations Committee, chair of Economic Development, chair of the Executive Committee for the COG, Board of Directors for the Association of Counties, served 2 years as vice chair, and there's a bunch of other accolades that he has earned. He's also kind of the financial guru who will ask those very specific financial questions that are needed, and shows that he's paying attention for the folks in his district and for the county as a whole. Personally, what I appreciate about Robert more than anything, and I think Brandon may have said this when he left too, was that even when I disagreed with him or we didn't share the same perspective on an issue, you could go to Robert, he would tell you what he was going to do, and he was a man of his word. He always stuck to what he was going to do, and he was a consummate gentleman. You could argue, and then the very next day he was going to be fine, and whatever that issue was forgotten. We are certainly going to have a clear void on the council for someone who makes motions, so we're posting that job. He always helped us move the agenda along. You will certainly be missed, Robert, and I know that I speak for the council when we say thank you for the hard work, and we know that you and Gina will have some time together. I don't think that this is the end of what we'll see from Robert. I mean, that's my suspicion, but we do want to thank you, and it's been a pleasure serving with you as a colleague of yours on this council. So we do want to present you with this plaque. Ask that. Trish, can somebody get a picture? Can you get a picture of the council? That we are going to present to Mr. Winkler for your service on this council, which is a tradition. Makes it look good, Kevin. Take my double chin out. No. Thank you. So again, we thank you, Robert. Would you like to say a few words before?
Just a few. I know we've got kind of a long meeting with quite a bit in executive session, so I won't take too long. But I do want to thank the voters of District 3 for allowing me to represent you for 8 years. I appreciate the trust that was placed in me, and I want everyone to know that I always voted how I believe was best based on the facts that were before me at the time. Next, I would like to thank the lady who, along with my wife and Amber in my office, made sure I was always where I was supposed to be for the last 8 years. Thank you, Karen. Thank you to the members of the county manager's office for the advice, feedback, and work that you put in every day to run the county and try to make the 7 of us happy and follow the 7 different directions we give you all the time. So, thank you to Michael Kendry in your office for all the hours you put into keeping us legal, and for always being there whenever I needed to just stop in with a question and always being open to talking to me. Thank you to all of the county staff for all the work you put in. You don't hear it enough from us. You usually just hear when somebody calls us and complains, then we call you and complain, but thank you for what you do. I want to say thank you to Britt Blackwell and Chad Williams for always being there to help me when I was brand new on and didn't know what I was doing. Britt and Chad were always ones that were willing to take my call and to try to give me direction on what I needed to do. Thank you to Christy for your current leadership and being willing to put in all those extra hours that I know you put in as a chair. That you didn't realize how much you did until I got to be vice chair to see how much the chair does. And lastly, thank you to all of my fellow council members for being willing to put in the hours that's required of us to be up here, and for giving up your time to service and to serve for the people in your district and the county as a whole. Until you sit up here, nobody really realizes what all it is that we do up here and how much effort and work that y'all put into it. And I've been proud to serve with all of y'all.
Thank you, Robert. Any other comments before we move on?
Yeah, I'd just like to say a quick word, though. You know, when Robert, when I first came on, I introduced Robert to be vice chair, and I introduced him as Robert Winkler, and along the lines of Henry Winkler, and it was interesting, and it was a good start to my council career. But I got to thank Robert. I mean, sitting next to you up here, knowing the knowledge you have, you've been a great mentor, and I appreciate everything you've done for the county and for your district and for the people of your district. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to also add, you know, to that, coming in as a newbie 4 years ago, there's a lot of people, and I think we'll have an opportunity to do that in a second, but, you know, of great, what stuck out to me immediately with Robert was how level-headed he was, and basically no matter what was before us, he always had a way to keep the conversation centered and coming back to the issue at hand. So in addition to the other comments, I just want to point that out and thank you for providing that leadership and as a role model to someone new coming into council.
I guess I'm next in line. Well, I'll just say that one of the things that I always liked about Robert is, like you mentioned before, like Christy mentioned, we can always disagree on certain issues, and the next day we're back right in the saddle riding with each other. Robert hardly ever showed a lot of emotions as far as getting upset with a vote. You know, he always told you where he stood when it came time to vote, and he stood by it. And when he made the comment, and I was taking notes, that people don't really know what all we go through, and the first thing came to my mind, it takes one to know one. It takes a person who knows what we're doing to know what we're doing up here. We get discounted a lot for the time and the hours that we put in, and I can tell you, Robert always did his homework. He knew where he was going to be on the issue. Even though we may not have always been on the same side of the issue, we always respected each other's position. You know, sometimes it gets real heated up here, and we do show a lot of emotions, but like I said, the next day we're back in the saddle, right back riding with the same team. So Chris is going to post his job for making motions, and I guess I'll put my application in to take over that spot now.
Thank you, Bob.
Well, I've served on the Finance and Operations Committee with Robert since I got on council, so that's been a long time running there, and he is kind of our financial guru in that respect. And I believe that he's probably going to be busier. You know, they say when people retire, they often work harder, and I think he's probably going to be busier not on council with all of the grandchildren and everything that he does in his personal life. But just want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure to serve with you.
Well, we have a 2-for-1 tonight. But this time, after serving one term, Joel decided he's had enough of us, and he's ready to move on. He really did stand up as a leader when we were doing our redistricting, and that was one of the reasons that I understand that he has agreed to serve this one term. Joel has served on our council since January of 2019, and he's chaired our Economic Development Committee. And anybody who knows Joel knows that that is one of his passions. And he helped spearhead initiatives when, quite honestly, this is one of the most difficult times to do that. In the midst of COVID and all of the fallout from that, it's just a very difficult time to serve in that capacity. But he's done so with great respect, and we've had many things be announced, and the county is doing very well with his leadership, and I know that that will be a specific area that we will certainly miss his expertise in. Once again, I can't believe I'm quoting Brandon again, but when he gave his comments, the thing that he said I 100% agree with. Joel has this uncanny ability to take something that's extremely complex, see, I can't even get the word out, extremely complex, and present it succinctly. So something that would take me 3 paragraphs to say, he can say in 2 sentences. And I know that we all appreciate that and are going to miss that. We are going to miss your perspective on this council as well. We're also going to miss seeing your beautiful girls who are here in the audience tonight. We see them, and I just couldn't get over how much they have grown since they sat in your chair when you first started to when now we're doing this picture now. And recently in one of our meetings to be able to sit still and to do so with, I was very impressed. And we're going to miss seeing them around here. But clearly, I don't think that this is over. We are going to see a lot of Joel in the future. He has a passion for our community, has a passion for the alma mater that he served at. And so we know that you will continue to stay involved and to stay, yep, you even got your colors on tonight. And we got a job opening for motions for executive session. That's going to be, we relied on you to do that, and you did that so well. We certainly do wish you and your family well as y'all move forward for the new challenges, and we appreciate your work on this council. And we have a plaque for you.
There is a second one back there. It's too nice. Thank you. He's like, don't worry, I got this, Kevin. Can you see it? Am I holding it up high enough?
Thank you again, and we'll turn it over to you.
Well, it has certainly been a distinct honor to represent the folks of District 7 and frankly the entire county in the 4 years that have flown by on this council. And it has also been a pleasure. What has made it a pleasure is the folks that I've had the opportunity to serve with. The folks on this council, the people that were on this council when I first came in, Michael Johnson and Britt were here as well. They were all fantastic in welcoming me in and getting me up to speed and tolerating my ignorance and naivety as I attempted to do so. I also would, of course, love to thank my lovely wife and my two beautiful daughters who are here this evening for putting up with my absences over the last 4 years and allowing me to have this opportunity. So I also would like to thank all of the people who supported me in my first campaign, and it's hard to believe that was 4 years ago now, but time really does fly, so that I could have this opportunity. And in that time, we also had a new county manager come on board who has served extremely well in coming into a somewhat tumultuous time where we had, a little deal going on with the Panthers that, hopefully is coming to a resolution. We had recoding of our entire zoning code. What am I missing? I mean, not to mention your day-to-day running the county and budget processes, but, David stepped up and did a phenomenal job, and really has shown exceptional leadership in this county, along with Kevin Madden, who is, if anyone doesn't know, is probably the financial guru of this region, and just does his job exceptionally well. We've all mentioned several times that this place just wouldn't function and none of us would show up on time to anything but for the efforts of Karen. And she does a phenomenal job of keeping everybody on track, making sure, hey, did you get my calendar invite? Like, hey, don't forget you have to be at the RFATS meeting on Friday, and kind of, keeping us all in line and making sure that, we're all on task and doing what we need to do. Everyone that's up here with me tonight has shown, what I would love to point, we've mentioned this a couple times, but we passionately, and some of us are very passionate, some of us more passionately than others, passionately disagree on issues on a regular basis. And yet, we can still call each other on the phone, we're still friendly. Recently, someone mentioned to me that they thought, the folks on council were too chummy, and I said, well, how funny is that in their mind that's a criticism? These are 7 people who all have the common denominator is a passion and a willingness to serve their community that they hold in high regard. So, of course, those 7 people are going to, have that in common and try to work together to get those things done. So, I'm grateful for everybody here, and continuing the tradition of mentioning the specifics. Of course, Tom, in the short time I've got to serve with Tom, has just been positive and enthusiastic on a daily basis, and brings that energy to this council. Robert, I've mentioned, and we've all mentioned, your special qualities that have made you an exceptional councilman. And I again want to thank you for all of those. And the other thing that we had to change over in those 4 years was a newly elected chairperson in Christie and Councilwoman Coxa. And, you know, she has just done a phenomenal job with keeping our council in the agenda moving forward and herding all of these cats that need to be herded. And I know that's a very difficult job. And the time that it takes is just unbelievable. So thank you for that. And of course, Bump Roddy, who has, you know, also, you know, has grown to not just be a friend of mine, but, you know, somebody that I know is going to take time to consider an issue thoughtfully and come down on the right end of it. And, you know, he's going to take his time to come figure out what the best decision is, but then when he does, that's where he is. And you know he's going to come down on the right side of an issue. Allison Love, who, you know, I've known for quite some time, but I've gotten to know really well throughout this time. Allison has a true passion for what she does in serving her community, and I hope the people in Lake Wylie realize what an asset they have in here on county council representing their interests. Of course, all of our staff, I hate to leave anyone out, but you talk about people who have had their hands full over the last several years. Our legal department has been swamped from day one. I don't know when Michael Kendry actually ever sleeps, because it seems like you're answering emails like throughout the night, constantly getting ready for meetings. So I don't know when that actually happens, but he has just been phenomenal over the several years that we've had just huge legal lifts that have just taken up more time than I can even imagine. And to his entire office, I'm eternally grateful. We've had, you know, like I mentioned, the recode, and y'all have been phenomenal with getting us through that and providing guidance and leadership to this staff. And I'll always remember that example of professionalism. So thank y'all for that as well. And I don't think I'm sure I'll leave somebody or something out, but as I mentioned, it has been a distinct honor and pleasure to serve, even though it was 4 years. That might seem like a lot, but it does fly by. So thank you.
Thank you, Joel. We do actually have a good bit of business tonight. The next up is Nick Lowe with McAdams Consulting to present the Worth Mountain Master Plan.
So like you said, I'm Nick Lowe with McAdams. We're a landscape design and engineering firm out of Charlotte, so just up the road in Ballantyne. I've worked with McAdams for 8 years. I'm a senior landscape architect licensed in North and South Carolina, and pretty much my career has been designing parks. So if you look up at the screen, that's one of the only structures at Worth Mountain. If you aren't familiar with the property, that's the entry. So I'll be giving you a short presentation on our ideas for the property that I think you'll vote on for adoption later. So just to orient you, there's the Broad River, which is the westernmost boundary of the county. So Worth Mountain, that park actually sits on the Broad River and actually has a peak called Immel Peak. And it also is about 1,600 acres. You can see there's an existing boat launch across the road, and it's near Hopewell and Hickory Grove. So public and stakeholder input, we actually did do public engagement. We used the 2018 county survey to start our thoughts with what the program is and what types of amenities could go at Worth Mountain. We also had stakeholder input with SCDNR, who currently manages the property. County staff also executed public input at the Summerfest, and it actually was very well attended and really fueled some things for programming. So program, we looked at Worth Mountain and looked at the place of where it is, and it's actually a nature preserve. So looking at that, we came into two kind of programming ideas of wildlife and education, and then also trying to keep the agricultural heritage that's out there at the park. So one thing that did come out of public engagement we were surprised of was the need for horse trails. So looking at the site, it's really laid out well for trails and getting people into nature, which I'll go over here in just a little bit. This is a close-up of the site plan. So you can see on Irene Bridge Highway, we're really concentrating most of the intensive uses next to the road and really trying to tread lightly on this property that is a very good natural asset. You can also see that there's ponds and streams and all sorts of things, different parts of nature for people to be intrigued with. This is just a larger view. You can kind of see how large the property is. We do have a little donut hole that is an existing piece of property that's connected by our central road, but you can see to the furthest south is the property where the current boat ramp exists on the Broad River. So placemaking, this is kind of a good picture that kind of speaks to the site. There's a lot of gravel roads and a lot of nature, and you can kind of see that harvester that's in the middle of the woods there, so trying to speak to the place we're designing to and keep its heritage. This is a kind of a blown-up view. We'll go through some blown-up views of some of the most active spaces, and then we've got some photo renderings of what these places might be like. This is the Ag and Learning Center next to the existing barn. Also trying to provide kind of more of a national park type access, trying to keep some of the existing hunting and some other activities going on. We'd see a ranger station, and then also there's opportunities for learning. One thing that kind of came out through our programming was there's really no space for local 4-H and FFA to kind of do some of their events as well as do some of the growing and plots that they do on campus. So this is a look at what that educational center would look like. You can see the red barn in the back, and then kind of the look of, we're trying to keep that agricultural look and kind of keep to where we are in the county. So really trying to tread lightly and use natural materials, and you can see what that plaza would look like. So moving on, this is a picture of what that greenhouse and some of those garden plots for students could be, and some of the activities that could be added and some of the learning. And this is actually Emil Peak. This is the tallest part on the site. There's a little marker on top where some of those boulders are. In that picture to the left, you can really see in the winter the views across the county, as well as some places that could be for seating. So trying to bring people up to this peak and down through the trails. Trails is actually a large component of what we want to do on site. So this is another rendering of what could happen on top of that peak and some of the views. So this is the largest pond on site. We didn't choose it for fishing. Fishing was one of the things that came out that we saw that people wanted to do. It actually has some really good views and overlooks and connecting trails across, so you can kind of see some places for unique seating, swing seating, boulder seating that could be on the peak at number 1. And then this is another photo rendering of what could happen there. So really trying to talk to place and get people engaged into some of the nature that's there. So this is the northernmost spot where we found that we could do a kayak launch, and we'd see that as being an inclusive kayak launch. One of the things we were trying to do is to keep cars away from things, so to keep them into the center of the site and bring them to more of trailheads. So we'd see this as a place where you could come in and do a blue way and come down to the boat ramp, and we think it's probably about a mile or 2 loop you could run down the Broad River. And then this is just another photo rendering of learning opportunities with active streams where you could bring school groups out to learn about what's happening. So across Irene Bridge, there's actually a pond that's more ADA accessible. So we felt that this was the best place to offer opportunities for fishing. You can see bringing a parking lot. This is actually already gated, and then also a shelter. And this is another view, just it's a really pleasant place, really good place to come to have an event. You can see what that would look like if it were just developed a little bit. And that's one thing you can see through all these renderings. This place wouldn't take a lot to bring up to where people could enjoy it. So trails is probably the largest component. There's already trails that have been managed by SCDNR there. We just want to piggyback on what's there and touch nature as lightly as we can, since it is a preserve. We are proposing that there could be loops of up to 29 miles of trails. And then this is just a larger map, seeing that the trails could connect across the 2 properties and bring people down to the river and across the different parts of the site. And this is just an idea of what that trail could look like if it were compacted aggregate. 8-foot wide trail that could accommodate both horses and people. And then this is another good view of the Broad River. You can see the beauty of the site. Any questions?
So this was presented to us in the Health and Environmental Protection Committee meeting, and it was well talked through and well vetted out in that meeting, which I thought was excellent. Some of the interesting aspects of this I find very universal in a lot of ways. This property can be used. One of the things that we did talk about was the barn that's there, all right? And the opportunity for a 4-H type of events that could occur in there. So again, when it comes to that, we've got opportunities to have our schools be engaged also from within that facility. Can you talk a little bit about the barn itself?
So we could see the barn that it can actually be divided up into two spaces to house the maintenance that's already there with the tractors that are required to maintain the site. But then also there's the opportunity to house things like lambs or goats or show cows so that they have an opportunity and a place to raise those for their events, but then also a place to learn. Because within there, there's actually a restroom and a conditioned space for people to be. So it would really be conducive and set up to learning opportunities, and then it's focused within that complex. There could be larger learning labs within that building area, but then also larger learning labs over with the garden spaces. So the barn's really an opportunity to house animals as well as equipment necessary for those types of learning experiences.
Excellent, excellent. Well, coming out of our committee meeting, we voted 3-0 in favor of supporting this. So again, just want to share it with the council, and thank you for what you put together. Appreciate it.
We do have on the agenda, first item in new business is to consider a resolution concerning approval of the master plan. And I do want to recognize Representative Dennis Moss, who is here, who has also, I understand, coming with money in hand to help us achieve the agricultural component of the plan. And so I want to make sure that we recognize him. Representative Moss, if you want to speak, you certainly can. I did want to make sure that we recognized you so that when that comes up.
I plan on discussing that a little bit
Okay.
more when we get into it as the actual vote too. So.
Okay. Any other questions of the plan before we get to them?
Well, I'm glad you said Dennis had a check, because my next question was gonna be what was the cost and timeline to complete this, but I'm sure we'll get to all that with the.
Yeah, we've included a document that has a phased approach on that. And this is definitely something that could be done over a 10, 15, 20-year period. And we're looking at, 20 to 25 million for total build out, but who knows with inflation into the future. So we've kind of tried to project that, but we definitely would see it as a phased approach. One of the things would be to establish just some signs to direct people across the site, and there's a lot that they can use already.
Any other questions?
I'll just, question/comment. Part of the reason we need to do this, my understanding is, the resolution tonight and adopt it is because once a plan is adopted, it gives us the opportunity to go after grants and other things to help pay for some of this phasing in territory, process.
And that was some of the other boxes we checked off, knowing that we would need grant funding was the public input as well. So we're positioning ourselves to look for that grant money, yes.
No other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. We appreciate that. Elliot Davis to provide us with the annual financial report.
Good evening, Council, Madam Chairwoman, Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to come and present the results of the audit of the York County financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2022. It's kind of the agenda. It's going to be very brief. The objective of our audit ultimately is the issuance of an opinion, and the opinion is on the overall presentation of financial statements. So you've been working with financial data for the year ended June 30, 2022, and our job is to vet the accuracy of that information. We were able to issue an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide, which means that the financial statements that were presented to us, in our opinion, are materially correct. I'll cover some required communications now. You have two documents in front of you, or I know you've been presented two documents. One is the very large financial statement. The second is our official communication to council. So we're obligated now to actually walk through the process of what the audit does and how we go about conducting our procedures. So council is comfortable with the procedures we deployed. So we start the process very, very early. Quite frankly, as soon as we conclude this audit, we'll actually start the planning for the next audit. And among the things that we consider are the challenges and the opportunities that the county is going through. We're certainly trying to stay familiar with the challenges. Certainly the things that reach the media, we're we're confident that we become knowledgeable about. So we do that so that we can assess the risks as we see them and make sure that we deploy our procedures in correlation to the risks as we see them. We do consider internal control as we go through this process, because we know that accurate internal control typically is going to create accuracy in your financial statements. So we don't actually audit internal control, but we consider it as we go through our procedures. So if we run into a situation where we find that there's a problem with internal control, we'll point those out, and I'll talk about those briefly in a minute. We do establish a level of materiality when we conduct the audit. I think I've mentioned before that we certainly don't audit every transaction. We like to focus on those higher dollar transactions, but in doing so, we also want to give all the other transactions an opportunity to be selected for testing. So while we do focus on that level of materiality, we do give every aspect of the county's financial statements the opportunity to be tested. Our responsibilities as council, we certainly work with management on a day-to-day basis, and one of the things that we do as we work with management is we assess where they are. Are they giving us the information we're asking for? How open are they to our questions? How accessible is the information? How accurate is the information that we get? And all of that helps us as we continue to develop that audit plan, because that goes on throughout the entire audit. One of the other things we do is we consider the county's significant accounting policies. Now, most of those you'll find in footnote 1 to the financial statement. So our obligation is to determine whether the county accounts for things the way we would expect them to account for things. We do that based on generally accepted auditing standards, governmental auditing standards, and GAAP. So as we go through our process, we're continually evaluating that and determining whether the way you report your financial statements is how we would expect them to be reported. It's not moving forward. I can't get it to go forward. Okay, here we are. So every financial statement is embedded with a certain number of management's judgments and accounting estimates. And as we go through our procedures, we consider the ones that are significant and would tend to lead to a more risky or potentially inaccurate answer. We feel like management, the judgments and estimates that are included in financial statements are well vetted and accurate in our opinion. We also go through all the disclosures in financial statements. It's not enough that you get numbers. You also get a lot of footnotes in the back that actually explain some of those numbers in some more detail. We evaluate whether management has met its reporting opportunity and is accurately presented the notes to the financial statements, that particularly for those things that are more complex. For example, there's probably 20 pages in your financial statement purely related to pension and OPEB. The other thing that we really appreciate as we work with your group, who are really, really outstanding, by the way, we had no uncorrected misstatements. So routinely when we do audits, we'll run into situations where we either have audit corrections, audit adjustments, or we have some adjustments that are so immaterial that we won't post them. We didn't have any as it related to York County, which represents how accurate the financial statements that were presented to us are. Management has to provide certain representations that we actually include in that document. Basically, they tell us they gave us everything we asked for, it was all accurate, they didn't mislead us in any way. Some standard representations which are included. We didn't have any disagreements with management, and any of the significant issues we discussed with management were consistent with what we would expect to have conversation with management about. So two things I want to, there was a new GASB this year that had to be considered, GASB 87, which related to leases. And the reason I bring it up is the county did not adopt the standard, and I give the county credit. Management, they could spend a lot of time and effort adopting a standard that wasn't significant to your financial statements, but they made the decision that the cost of a control should not outweigh the benefits you get from it. Because it was relatively immaterial, we felt like management's determination not to adopt that standard was a good use of time and resources by the county. Now, we do believe that this GASB number 96 that will be implemented next year, or is required to be implemented next year, may require some additional resources. Basically, what it requires is any long-term technology agreements have to be booked as a right-of-use asset and a related liability. So I know the staff is kind of going through that process of determining whether there's going to be anything significant that's got to be booked as a result of this new standard. So there's two additional opinions that we issue when we conduct our audit. What's moving now? Okay. It's got a mind of its own. So the first thing is what we routinely refer to as a yellow book audit opinion. So because you report under governmental auditing standards, we're required to vet the county's system of internal control as it relates to significant issues that we are auditing, and to opine on whether we think that you are everything is in good order as it relates to your internal control. Again, we didn't test internal control, but as we deploy our procedures, we consider those internal controls to determine whether they lead to accurate financial reporting. Again, an unmodified opinion. The second opinion is because you receive federal funding, and this year and the next couple of years that funding is significant, we're required by the Single Audit Act to audit your federal expenditures. Now, it's major federal expenditures. This year we tested the coronavirus state and local physical recovery funds. It's your major program, and it's a significant fund. It will be for several years. The federal government considers it to be a high-risk program, so we tested it again, no findings. And because of the results of this audit and the audit for the previous 2 years, the county's considered a low-risk auditee. Both of those opinions, as I mentioned, were both unmodified, which again is the highest level of assurance that we can provide. We were very happy with the results of the audit. I will have a management letter that I did not have ready for tonight, but I will say there are typically 3 levels of control findings or financial statement findings. There's material weaknesses, mean if we don't fix this, it's going to likely lead to a misstatement of financial statements. We didn't have any material misstatements. The significant deficiencies are not quite as significant as material misstatements, but they are significant enough that we would bring them to council and say, these need to be corrected. We also didn't have any of those. We will have some control-related findings that we'll report in a separate cover that are not obligated to go in your financial statement. One of them certainly going to be related to the fire district engagement that we provided, and a couple other minor things that we'll provide at a later date. It should be in the next week or so that we should be able to deliver that. But very happy with the results of the audit. I know the information's 6 months old, but we did meet the reporting deadline as required by the state. Your folks did a really good job. We're really happy to work with them. And I guess I should point out Melissa Monahan, who actually does the bulk of the work that I get to take credit for. So thank you, Melissa, for what you did. And any questions?
Just one quick question. As you look to your next audit, new GASB standards, I know you mentioned technology, I think, was one for this go-around. Anything that you're seeing on the horizon that
outside of 96, nothing's, I mean, they trip us up periodically, but right now they've projected out the last several years, and 96 is probably the most significant one as it relates to the county.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the management letter, because as you were speaking, I was just sending Kevin Madden a text about the financial letter, the management letter, and so good to hear that you're going to have that coming. Now, one thing I did want to point out is that I've seen these for the last several years, and one thing that I always like to allude to is that unassigned fund balance, and I see we have a real healthy fund balance. Kind of give a short, brief, just of a synopsis of what that would mean if we were not so financially well off.
I'm glad you brought that up. So, and I know that that's routinely discussed by council there's always discussion about what's the right level. I can tell you that certain agencies suggest 60 days of general fund expenditures as unassigned fund balance. But I will say unassigned fund balance allows you the flexibility for downturns in the economy, surprises that council sees, responsiveness to needs of the community. you have a healthy fund balance. And healthy fund balance, typically, it doesn't happen by accident. There's a lot of planning and effort that goes into making sure that you have the money set aside for future needs, because we never know what's gonna happen. I harken back to 2012 and 2013, working with a lot of school districts that were crippled on education because funding was so significantly cut. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes a downturn like that to remind everybody that having a healthy unassigned fund balance is good for everybody. So you are in really good shape. I think you have a policy on not only what your fund balance should be, but how you fill it if you ever need to go in fund balance. So really a good representation for the county, how that's governed.
Any other questions? Well, we do appreciate the information to me, and I think our council agrees that one of the most important things that we can do is to make sure that there's accuracy and transparency in our financial disclosures, and the public just has to have confidence in what our council does, and to ensure that their money is being handled properly. And I heard you say outstanding and highest level as a measure of what our folks do, especially Kevin Madden. I try not to say too many nice things to him because his head, I see it growing as you speak. I'm just joking. He does a phenomenal job, and it's always good to make sure that what we're doing is consistent with what the reporting requirements are. And with the fund balance especially, I know that we've used that very creatively to do things like the Pennies for Progress to get a jump start on the road improvements that we were able to get done within 4 years under budget, because we had those funds there to borrow, and that got the roads finished a lot sooner for the public. To me, that's a tremendous reason why you have a healthy fund balance, is to do those sorts of things. But we do appreciate the work that you do, and we're glad to hear that they're doing what we understand they do, and that we've got really good folks guiding us. That's one thing I think our council relies heavily on, is the work that comes out of that office.
Not every county do I have somebody calls me when they have celebrations about saving money, and they know what they can do with it. And Kevin's really happy about calling me and telling me about all those things. So, but again, to that level of transparency that you spoke to, that gives us, it gives us a good place to start when we conduct the audit. And my job is to figure out how to trip him up, so.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate
Thank
you. One thing I did not say previously too, and I just want to make sure that I do this now, the folks who are rolling off of council today, we have a special treat and I just want to make sure that I recognize the Atkins family, Tommy and Carolyn, who have spent a tremendous amount of time. I'm sure it was mostly Carolyn, but Tommy had to help roll and do those things to say thank you to those folks that are rolling off. And I wanted to make sure I said that before folks had left. That was very thoughtful and very much appreciated. We move now to our public forum session. This is an opportunity for folks to give message to council, and we listen to you, and our job is not to go back and forth with questions, is to listen and to hear what you have to say. We have only one person who signed up, C.W. Sin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and council members. And I, C.W. Sin Jr., 520 West Mount Gallant Road, York, South Carolina, 29745. What I'd like to speak with you about is discretionary funds. When I got notification of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting that was earlier tonight, I saw where there was 2 approvals for funds for the fellows, whoever that is, for $4,000, and Long Live Jared Blake Foundation for $2,500. So I went to the Secretary of State's website in South Carolina and put both of these names in there. Neither one of them showed up. And I also went to Charity Navigator website, put those names in there. They didn't show up. So is it a legitimate foundation? I don't know, could be. But I have concerns well, I didn't know each council member had $20,000 in discretionary funds to do with as they want with this memorandum, which is pretty weak, in my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but I would think that's pretty weak guidelines, and I would expect really more from my county as far as the ability to get these funds. I mean, The Fall Livestock Show would love to have some funds, but has the county ever given the Fall Livestock Show any money? Probably not. Anyway, thank you for your time, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Sin. We move now to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We go to the public hearings, and I think just on that note, we'll have council and management take a look at that. Council hold a public hearing and provide third reading of an ordinance to amend the existing agreement governing the York-Chester Industrial Park to add parcels within the geographical boundaries of York County to the multi-county park, to provide corresponding tax map numbers, company names, or property owners associated with the added parcels, to provide for a public hearing, and to provide for other matters relating thereto. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against?
Move to close.
We have a motion and a second to close public hearing. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Do we have a new motion?
Motion.
Approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Winkler?
Just for clarification purpose for people who don't know, every year we update our list of multi-county industrial parks that are used between us and Chester and Lancaster County. We don't have any in Cherokee County, do we, Kevin, currently? And what this is for when we do fee in lieu of incentives, and it has to be in a multi-county industrial park according to the way the state set it up. And so each county has a list of parks that are included in those parks, and so we update that every year just so we can keep whoever's built a new industrial park or whatever change has been made in other counties, keep everything current. So, and that's all this is just kind of a formality to keep those listings current. So.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Council to consider a public hearing and third reading of an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of an amendment to an existing fee agreement by and between York County, South Carolina and Schuff Steel Company as sponsor, consenting to and authorizing the execution and delivery of the assignment and assumption agreement by Schuff Steel Company as assigner to Banker Steel Company LLC as assignee, and to provide for other matters related thereto. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor? If you'll please state your name and address.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Levite. I'm the plant manager for the 1345 Hall Spencer Road Baker Steel plant located in Rock Hill. And we're very thankful for the incentive, everything you guys have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Do we have a new motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And thank you for your investment in York County. We appreciate you being here. Council to hold a public hearing and conduct third reading of an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a third amendment to the certain fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between York County, South Carolina, the Lash Group LLC and Kingsley No. 9 LLC dated October 5th, 2015 as amended, and other matters related thereto. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against?
Move to close.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. Do we have a new motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We move now to old business. rezoning action, consider third reading case number 22-21, tax map number 617-000000026-077-084-085, 086-087, major PD amendment, 179 acres in District 5. Just
This is a
slipped that
rather
over
long
there.
motion. So, motion to amend and provide third reading of the major PD amendment rezoning ordinance approving the 2 requested modifications as presented to County Council, addressing a maximum 60-foot building height only upon parcel number 617-00-00-084, and the orientation of loading docks toward Lazy Hawk Road and Interstate 77 for all parcels, in addition to providing the additional, I can't read that, PD notations as presented to County Council addressing the filing of covenants, conditions, and restrictions pertaining to the limitations upon and design of the rear trailer lot and the time periods for restricted truck and trailer movements upon the rear lot, and for the applicant to enter a road improvement agreement with York County. Sorry to not bring my glasses tonight, so that was a bit of a challenge.
That was
Second.
fast. We have a motion and a second. This is my district, and I thank you for reading that motion. This is one of those things that maybe I should have prepared Ken Vern before I started talking. It's not really what I had envisioned in this PUD. It's not. I think they knew that. I think that there were concerns that were raised by the community were the sound and then the noise levels that exist there. The idea that they wanted something more than warehouse and distribution at this location. The idea that this is going to create some issues with the roads and infrastructure in that area. And one of the things that we have to do is believing in private property rights, as long as you are not infringing on others' rights to do that, there is an expectation that you have to do what their property allows you to do. And in this particular case, that is what was determined, was allowed, and that was determined through staff. City of Rock Hill had already entered into an agreement and worked towards providing a plan for that project to move forward, and there's an annexation agreement in place. So progress happens, and maybe it doesn't happen the way that you want it to all of the time. But what I can tell you is that I'm very thankful for Ken Vern. I think he has done a tremendous job working with the community in the area to find ways to make its impact less, to make a good neighbor. He has worked with the neighbors to come up with some additional buffering and to require that as part of the plan. He has also agreed on behalf of Karis to do some additional work and to provide funding to address some of the issues that exist at that site with respect to the truck traffic coming in and out of there, working with DOT and with the city to get on the same page. And so I think that this is one of those situations where it's not exactly the most exciting thing that I would have wanted for my district, but it is truly, you have been a pleasure to work with, and Ben Johnson has worked very hard on your behalf, and I'm excited. I think that the community will have some investment there that is needed for the school in that area, so I'm thankful for where we are, and I'm also thankful to staff and to legal for helping come up with this solution, and I think that it is the best solution for what we have to deal with there. So I will support the motion. Any other discussion? Mr. Roddy?
I was gonna say, real quick, yeah, Ken and his group definitely worked tirelessly, getting this, through. The one thing that I'm excited about is that they're investing $80 million in our community. It's not gonna impact our schools. So, and I think that's a real big bonus for us to see this kind of level of investment, because we need, big investment. It may not be the ideal thing that everybody wanted to see, but oftentimes I always look back and say, what's the alternative? Something else could have went there that could have been a lot more detrimental. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking that community wouldn't have wanted to see a hotel go there. I think that would have been a tragic plan, but I'm glad to see that this has gotten through, and glad to be a part of supporting it. I know they work really, really hard.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank the, this group for your investment into the community. This is a great opportunity. I said, not only the investment of $80 million in our community, but the opportunity to have this type of unit in this area from a food storage facility is very important to the entire community. So I would like to thank you. Excellent.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. Rezoning action, consider second reading, case number 22-41, tax map number 15300000001, a portion to rezone from AGC to AGC 1, 8 acres in District 3.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Council to approve second reading of an ordinance to amend the code of the County of York, South Carolina, Chapter 51.05, Water and Sewer Rates and Charges, Terms and Conditions of Service, in order to add subsection 17 to impose a surcharge for certain water and sewer customers located in the Clover River Hills, Lake Wiley area of the county as delineated by the geographic area constituting the Blue Granite Franchise Territory, and to provide for matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Council to consider and adopt a resolution of the York County Council to receive, accept, and adopt the Worth Mountain Master Plan as presented and approved by the Health and Environmental Protection Committee, to authorize York County management personnel and/or any other designee to initiate the implementation of park development phasing as funds are budgeted and as detailed within the plan for the purpose of fulfilling the long-term plan to transform the 1,600 acres along the Broad River into an outdoor recreation area and nature-based park and preserve, benefiting the citizens and visitors to York County for generations to come, and to address other matters relating thereto.
Move to approve, but I would like to, if I can word this properly according to our county attorney, I would like to move to approve and add an amendment to request that staff work with the school districts and with Dennis Moss to work to get that first phase of funding in from that Dennis has available for our 4-H planning and stuff.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Winkler.
I'd just like to say thank you to Dennis for a number of reasons. One, thank you for what you've done for our rural fire departments in my district in the last few weeks. For those of you that don't know, our rural fire departments have to, do a lot of fundraising and other stuff, and Dennis has found money to help all of them pay off pretty much all of their mortgage on their volunteer fire stations. And so I thank you for that. And then along with that, at the swearing-in ceremony the other night, Dennis told me that there's $500,000 that could be used if we can work with the schools to put some 4-H barns and stuff out there on Worth Mountain to go ahead and put in so that they can do 4-H cattle judging and sheep judging, pig judging, all the other stuff that 4-H does. And our school districts not have to go to Chester County or somewhere else. And that's really what I thought, was the low-hanging fruit to do something with that at Worth Mountain when we started. And so thank you for finding us some funds to help get that kick started. And Mr. Roddy asked about funding. Well, right off the bat, we're getting some in the door here, and I really greatly appreciate it. So.
Yeah, real quick.
Mr. Alded?
Yeah, I just want to second your comments there, Robert. Destination, the opportunity to have a destination such as this in Western New York, I think, is phenomenal. What we're doing across the board in York County to bring parks into this area and bring the quality of living and giving opportunities for people to get out in many different ways this is a prime example of it. That's 1,600 acres. I've walked that before. It's a beautiful location. And the opportunity for multi-use out there is phenomenal, including the 4-H and all the opportunity from the schools. Excited to see this go through, and I'm excited for the residents of York County and outside of York County, the people that are going to be using this, I think, are really going to enjoy it.
Yeah. Mr. Roddy.
I just wanted to go ahead and piggyback off what Robert said in the question I asked earlier about the funding and the finances of, to go into Worth Mountain. I know this is something new that we're getting involved with, developing a lot of our green space, natural parks. I know we have big plans for Catawba River Bend, and now seeing these plans for Worth Mountain. And it's good to hear that this is kind of moving along, being approved with some money coming in the door right off the bat. Because I know we have some really exciting things going to happen out at the River Bend. And now to hear that Worth Mountain is getting, which I would like to say a facelift, because I remember several years ago, if I'm not mistaken, this council footed the bill to take over Worth Mountain, and I think Dennis was kind of involved with that as well several years ago. But just wanted to make sure that we're staying on track and not overextending. But the good part about this is we're gonna hopefully cash that check real soon that Dennis bringing in, helping us secure some funding. Thank you.
Any other, Ms. Love?
Just also want to say thank you, Dennis, for your efforts on that. And we didn't see each other in person the other night, but we spoke after our reception. And I think they're also interested in a little more emphasis on equestrian, because you were telling me that there were very few places in the state where people could actually bring their horses and ride. And I think Worth Mountain is a great resource for that. So I think it's important for us to. I know a lot of times, and I've said this in our committee meeting before with Councilman Audette, and that is that, you know, funding is always the thing that holds us back. We have a long wish list of things we'd like to see happen in the county, and so hopefully we'll get a little more money from South Carolina going into next year. So I don't know if there's a time limit on when we have to. I know approving this tonight is very important, but a time limit on when we have to use that money or accept that for this use. But we just need to be cognizant of that, and I think it's a great opportunity for Western New York County.
Any other comments? Certainly echo everything that everyone said. I mean, I think this time has been coming, and we certainly do appreciate Dennis for identifying those funds. It certainly makes things easier for the school district to be involved in this. I think it's a cooperative approach to that property that gives some access and allows the public to use that. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Council to adopt a resolution committing York County to enter into a fee in lieu of tax incentive agreement with one or more companies presently identified collectively under the code name Project Tullamore, which includes certain credits against fee in lieu of tax payments for certain investments, infrastructure, and other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd just like to point out that I'm thrilled that in my last meeting on this council that I have the opportunity to vote on this inducement resolution. This represents several months worth of tremendous work done by our economic development team, working in lockstep with the City of Rock Hills economic development folks as well as the state to bring a project of this size and scale to York County. Just to throw some numbers at you so you have an idea of what we're talking about. This company, which is on the bleeding edge of manufacturing silicon carbide wafer boards used in the semiconductor industry, will be investing $443,200,000 into York County for the first phase of this development, representing 405 new jobs with an average annual salary of $51.92 per hour. So in terms of, you know, providing substantial living wages to 405 residents of this county while also investing $500 million, you know, give or take a few 10 million into this county is tremendous, as Councilwoman Cox stated, in the aftermath of COVID and in an environment with exceedingly high cost of capital. To get an investment of this size and scale into this county takes a tremendous amount of effort, and I'm very grateful to our team, and thank you for working so hard to make this happen. And I don't know if anyone is here tonight from the company, but we're very grateful for the investment in this community.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Couldn't say it better myself. Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Council to consider initiating a rezoning pursuant to York County Code of Ordinances 155.1137A1 to include tax map parcel 577-00000001 in previously initiated rezoning case 22-42 in order to rezone the property from RSF 40 to the newly created Parks and Recreation Zoning District.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Winkler?
I will, first of all, I'd like to apologize to the citizens of the county because I pride myself on trying to read everything and not let things sneak through on me. But this is adding something to a vote that we did recently that I did not catch. This is adding a parcel to a vote that we did recently to rezone some parcels to our new park district, which I'm all for if we own the land. But this parcel we're adding tonight is not land that we own, it's River Hills Golf Club. And the parcel that I missed that slipped through the last reading was a golf club down in the south side of Rock Hill. And I am just very much against us as a council rezoning someone's private property without them asking for it to be done and us just going in and doing it. I apologize that I missed it the first time, but I will not support it this time. And this is just adding to that, so there'll be more votes for future council members to vote on whether or not this goes through completely. But I cannot knowingly support us just taking somebody's property that has not asked for it and just saying, we're gonna rezone it into something that you haven't asked for and control your property as a government. I can't do that.
Any other discussion?
I think sometimes bad examples result in consequences like this. And I think the Regent Park area of Fort Mill is that bad example, where those people that lived on the golf course at Regent Park, they paid extra to overlook a golf course. And that property was sold, and it could have been all kinds of things that none of us want to overlook. One of those could have been a convenience store, which would have been bad enough, but they were allowed to come in and build up property probably, I don't know how many feet, Jonathan probably can tell me, but probably 30 feet in the air, and then build multi-story townhomes on it. So those people's property values decrease. So when you talk about one person's property being rezoned without their, I guess, being in agreement in some cases, compared to all of those other property owners who built there or lived there in good faith, and their property values, I can tell you almost firsthand, secondhand, let's say, for the people that live in Regent Park, their property values took a very deep dive when those townhomes were built there. And it's shocking to see. So before we get to third reading, I'm sure we'll have some pictures of that and just show you what can happen. And I think for the people who live in River Hills, they would be relieved to know that living on a golf course will remain an opportunity for them no matter what, and it keeps them from having to worry about what could possibly happen out their back windows.
Any other discussion? Mr. Roddy?
Have we had any discussion with the property owner about rezoning this property? Have they agreed to it, disagreed? Have we contacted them? So what's been kind of the dialogue?
The protocol would be we would contact them after initiated by council. They'll be part of the public hearing process. They'll be mailed notices and be able to participate just like the neighboring properties.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll say I'll support it just to initiate the process, but if we get much pushback from this because they are the property owners, I probably wouldn't support it if it gets to that level.
Any other discussion?
I was just gonna say, I agree, and I won't be here, so supporting it tonight isn't a support of the rezoning, it's just a support of the initiation of the process, so that the new folks coming into council will have the opportunity to consider the matter. And I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't provide that opportunity. So I intend to vote for it tonight, but we'll see how it goes over the next few readings.
Yeah, I've got the same concern, and there's more information I need to get on this in order to, really get behind it from a process standpoint. I think I will support it tonight, but again, we do have 2 additional readings here that, with the other information coming out, we'll see how it goes from that point.
So I think I made my comments on this issue known at the last council meeting, and that anything that's a council-initiated rezoning needs not to be in a consent agenda. That should not happen. And I do think that there is, what's happening tonight is basically leveling the playing field by making sure that any of the parks and the golf courses are included within the consideration that council is going to have. There are still going to have to be 3 readings. There's going to have to be a public hearing. I have very strong reservations about everything that other council has said up here today as well, and am inclined not to do that, especially in a district where the zoning turns out to be 1-to-1 acre homes, which is probably what would be allowed there anyway. At the same time, I think that staff has designated this, and we have plenty more work to do on this, so that will come forward, and we'll have an opportunity to listen to their rationale for including that in this group. And I think, like Joel said previously, this is not a decision on the issue. It's just adding a piece to that so that when we have the conversation, all of the pieces are there at the table at the same time. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries 5-1. Committee and other reports. Health and Environmental Protection Committee meeting. Chairman Tom and Audette.
Yeah, so just kind of piggyback on what I mentioned earlier, you know, last week we had a meeting in regards to Worth Mountain. The presentation was excellent. I think we all see the vision and the opportunity we have here from within Worth Mountain. Again, it was a unanimous as far as us approving it or as a recommendation to the council. So that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance and Operations Committee Chairman Winkler.
Thank you. Finance and Operations met this evening at 5:30. Present were myself, Councilmember Allison Love, and Councilmember Joel Hamilton. We considered applications for service for Culture and Heritage Commission, and we made the recommendation for Katie Rutland to be appointed to a vacant seat for her first term and ex officio seat for Culture and Heritage Commission. We looked at the application for discretionary funds from District 4 for the fellows in the amount of $4,000, and we approved recommending that. We looked at the allocation of the funds from District 4 to the Long Live Jared Blake Foundation in the amount of $2,500. We approved that pending the question as to whether or not they are a recognized foundation or a charity. And we asked staff to look into that, so it's approved. We just got to have that. The fellows, I think most of us are familiar with. They've done a lot of fundraising and a lot of stuff in Rock Hill and York County. But that one we weren't familiar with, so we just asked for a little more detail before we approve it, or to approve it. And then we got an update from Finance Committee. They told us that the auditor would be here tonight, giving us this nice package of light reading for us. And they did tell us that those of you that will be here after January or into January will have a vote to do some amendments for the budget to move some money into our, drawing a blank, Kevin. What's the fund called? Our capital projects fund, so.
Y'all won't actually vote on that.
Okay.
The policy is we roll over any surplus
Yeah,
in the capital
that's
projects fund, and so that's what we were able to do after this past year. We were able to roll over, I think, $7 million into that.
And we'll roll that in this year as well, which helps us keeps y'all in the future from having to raise taxes on anyone to pay for those capital projects. And that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Winkler. Council member, new non-agenda comments.
I'll just start off by saying Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone.
Excellent. I do want to loop back on something we talked about earlier, and this is in regards to the Lash Group LLC. I want to publicly thank them for their public partnership that we have and their investment into our community. I just want to point this out real quick. Their capital investment of $167 million was double the target amount of $80 million that we originally expected. So I want to thank them for what they've done in their investment into the community, and we look forward to our future partnership with Lash moving forward. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton.
It's been a long-standing tradition on this council that during this portion of our meetings, we might recognize some achievement of somebody in our community. And it's recently come to my attention that we've missed one, or at least I personally did. Maybe somebody mentioned it and I missed it. But our deputy solicitor in York County was recently awarded back in September. And so this acknowledgement is certainly in the better late than never category. The Ernest F. Hollings Award, which is awarded for excellence in prosecution. So basically, the highest honor that a prosecutor can receive throughout the state. She has worked for the solicitor's office for 3 decades and is the highest ranking female in the circuit, I believe. And I just appreciate her longtime commitment to justice in this community and for providing such a great example to others in her office. So I'm remiss for missing that earlier in September, but we're all grateful for her service and certainly very happy and would like to congratulate her for her award.
Thank you for pointing that out.
What's the name?
Betty Miller.
Betty Miller, okay.
Any other comments? Yes. Ms. Love?
So I would just like to say to those people who live in my district in the Lake Wiley area, who are likely hoping for the Christmas present of a royal flush of blue granite, we are still proceeding. Things are happening. We passed the surcharge thing on the agenda tonight, and I want to let you know that we are diligently working on this, and instead of being a Christmas gift, it's likely to be a New Year's gift for you. So we are working on that. It has taken a lot of effort, time, and we're at the point of being sure that all of the data is compatible with what we're doing. I think we maybe even are beyond that, but we are diligently working on this, and it's been one of my goals since I sat in this chair. Over at the other building, though. And I would like to, we didn't get the opportunity to really say anything to Joel, but I just want to say that in the beginning, there were things that we didn't agree on. There were big things that we didn't agree on. And in the end, there have been mostly things that we have agreed on. And without disclosing anything from any of our executive session meetings, there's one quote that I will never forget, and I'm going to credit you with that. And that is the recommendation to sit back and watch the magic happen. So thank you for that. You never know how that's going to.
You got to do your magic show now.
Yeah, you never know how that's going to turn out. But I've enjoyed some of our back and forth, and in the past, I would say 6 to 8 months, we've been pretty much in agreement on everything, and it's been nice to be able to call you and ask you for some advice on things. So I appreciate your support of, you and Robert both, your support of the buyout of Blue Granite and things that we've needed in the, especially in the Lake Wiley area, but for all of District 2. I very much appreciate that support and hope that the new folks coming on will be as supportive of you as you have been. Want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and won't see you all next year. So thanks for tuning in, and let's make it a good end of the year.
I'd just like to say Merry Christmas as well, and say, I'm sorry, Allison, I thought we were gonna get this done before I got off council. That's been my goal for Blue Granite, that to happen before I got off, but we're gonna miss it a little bit, I think, but, hopefully, I know management will keep pushing that through till it's done.
You can come back and celebrate with us when we pass that.
I hope that's a standing invitation, because
Yes,
I can't wait for that.
Definitely a standing.
And Joel, I wanted to say, earlier, I'm glad that we're both rotating off at the same time, because if you rotated off before me, I would have lost my legalese translator, and I would have been lost.
Yeah, I do want to say, Joel, it has been an honor serving with you up here. And as Robert would say, the legal translator, it's built right into you, man. I tell you what, it's been an honor, and excited about your future as you move forward.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you. I usually don't.
I didn't get to say anything about Joe, because I see, I'd be remiss if I couldn't make a comment. But I just want to quickly say that, it feels like Joe's been here longer than 4 years, because he came in, hit the ground running, and I think he picked it up a lot faster than some people probably would have. But Joe's become a good friend of mine. We talk outside of these chambers. And just like everyone up here, nobody up here agrees 100% with nobody 100% of the time. That's not the nature of this business, but we all respect each other's positions. We respect what everybody brings to the table. Each one of us brings something different to the table, and I think that's why it goes a lot smoother and in the best interest of everybody, because we do have every sector of this community represented, and I think Joe helps bring that out in all of us. He can take a long paragraph and turn it into 2 sentences, and you still get the same effect, because he has a way with words, and I appreciate all that he's brought to the table. And everybody knows he's going to be a lot more busier outside of coming here on Monday nights than he has been coming here on Monday nights, because it was mentioned about his daughters, tonight, and family time is so important. We all give up family time to do what we're doing up here, and we'd be remiss if we didn't have that good, solid home life with the family, with the kids. So, good luck going to those soccer games, because he even mentioned, I asked him what he's gonna be doing, when he rotates off council. He says, I'm missing a soccer practice or a game tonight. So I know those Monday nights and dates and times with the family's gonna be filled up. But we're gonna miss you up here, so come see us any Monday night. You always welcome.
Thank you, man. Appreciate y'all.
And so that invitation is open. We certainly are, again, going to miss both of you guys and the expertise that you bring to the council. Giving up family time to do this job. My husband's sitting in the audience. Want to wish him a happy 25th wedding anniversary today, and hopefully we'll get out of here in time to go grab a hamburger at Wendy's or something. But I want to thank him for putting up with me and for our family for putting up with me as we do this. You say sometimes we don't always agree on things. Some of us disagree with the others more than others, and my husband can attest to that too. But I do appreciate the work that our council does, that we can disagree on things and still come out and move ahead with the next item that's up for us to consider. We do have a citizen concern tonight. Ms. Tammy Gordon wants to address the council regarding a gun range on Burnsdale Road. Ms. Gordon, if you could just give your your name and address before you get started.
My name is Tammy Gordon. My address is 2898 Burnsdale Road. I have a concern on the area where we live at. I'm not sure it's a gun range or a campground, but the address is 2974. It says a campground. But I have no problem with anyone shooting, but I have a problem when the shooting occurs at 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, Saturday, that you can't have a sit outside and enjoy yourself. I've lived there all my life. And of course, the property changed over the years, but that gun range has got to be a problem now because they're shooting more than rifles. It sounds like cannon. It's real loud. It's like boom now. I live on the upper end, and that gun range may be about a half a block down from where I stay. And I didn't bring anybody with me. I don't know what their concerns are, but when I started to hear up there where I live at, and you don't give it 2 days off, that Saturday and Sunday, and you have to deal with this issue of gunshot, waking you up straight from 9 to 12 on Sundays. Even when you come back from church, they're shooting. That is my concern, and that's in District 5 area. So an officer reached out to me, and which I call illegal activity going on. They're handling that because I called them. And it's just the shooting now. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. I have communicated the concerns that you had that we have talked about previously to county management, as there is an issue of commercial use instead of residential use potentially on the property, and they have been communicating with staff over at the Sheriff's Department as well to look into the matter, and I'm not sure if they've had a chance to reach back out to you yet, but wanted to let you know that I did communicate that, as well as the photos, and went down there and took a look at that as well. And so we'll continue to monitor that and reach out to you with if there's a zoning issue that exists with that operation.
Okay, be in touch.
Thank you, ma'am. If you want to have some questions, you can ask questions of our management here. Raise his hand.
Oh. I don't have a question for you right now, but when I do a little bit more homework for the zoning, and I'll be back next month with more of my in-depth, because my understanding is supposed to be just residential home on that Burnsdale Road.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you so much, and y'all have a Merry Christmas.
You have a Merry Christmas too. Thank you. Do we have a motion for executive session?
We do. I move that we go into executive session to discuss several items. The first being a personnel matter / contractual matter relating to the county manager and county attorney. Also for the receipt of legal advice relating to a contractual matter regarding ongoing litigation update as well as related legal matters. Also for the receipt of legal advice / contractual matter relating to the real estate master deed. Also to discuss another contractual matter relating to emergency medical services, and also for the receipt of additional legal advice regarding another contractual matter relating to Blue Granite. So I know it's your 25th wedding anniversary. Sorry, Michael. But there's no pressure, Mr. Kendry, but there's several items that we need to get through.
And then I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move into executive session in the back room.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, y'all refrigerate it. It's the best sausage made by one of our local
When we left
folks.
here to go to executive session, it was refrigerated.
Yeah, I know. It makes, I started to get y'all the stuff.
Mine's almost cooked. You guys want some?
Turn it over, just turn it over, just gotta turn it over now.
So y'all eat local sausage. I'm telling you, there is a recipe. I was gonna try to get y'all the Red Lobster mix. Have you had them with the Red Lobster mix and the cheese? So I couldn't find the Red Lobster mix, so I was like, oh crap, I'll just give that. But
I get mine
it's
from
the
G&W's
best.
usually.
It is
Well, that's
fantastic.
now that Garden and Gun did an article about Nice's sausages, it's sold out everywhere. So Marina normally makes these sausage rolls so that we can eat them real fast for breakfast. So she'll make one on Sunday and we'll eat it for like 4 days. But she uses Nice's, but it's sold out everywhere. They have a big shortage
It's
now because of
crazy.
freaking Garden and Gun. They ruined it. So this is
Don't make
wonderful.
sausage
I'll get my sausage roll next week.
All right, are we good?
I believe
Oh,
so.
we do have ready now.
Oh, yeah. It tells us we're ready.
So I'm supposed to give a signal. I don't want to hit the gavel. We are out of executive session. No action was taken. Do we have any motions?
We do have two motions. Our first motion is to approve the master deed changes as we discussed in executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Motion to approve the contractual/personnel matters as we discussed in executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
I move that we adjourn, and I want to thank you all. It's been a distinct pleasure.
All right.
Motion and a
Second.
second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.